So I'm doing some post-season scouting on my 75-acre hunting farm here in northwest Wisconsin. And it's been a really great season. So I thought I'd do a recap on how things all went down. It started out pretty good with turkeys earlier this year. We did a mentor hunt. My son was one of the kids who shot their first turkey, and then his friend Tyler. So we ended up with 2 nice toms during the mentor hunt here. And then a couple weeks later, I had my own tag, and my son Bennett did some calling for me, and I shot a nice tom. I shot it right where I'm standing, actually. I was sitting under that tree right there, and they were roosted in those maples up there. And he came right down about where I'm standing, and I shot him. So that was pretty cool experience in the spring. We fast forward to the archery season, and I had a line on a pretty nice 9-pointer. I was getting pictures of him out here on my trail cameras. And this has been a really good early season property because it's got a number of apple trees. It used to be pasture, and those apple trees are mature, and there's quite a few of them, and they were pretty full of apples again in the early season. And the farm is pretty open now, but there's a lot more cover and foliage in the early season for archery. So the deer kind of tend to hang around in here between that and the apples. And so I was sitting in the box blind right up here. Those are the apple trees right there. I actually have a water tub and a licking branch or a vine hanging in that tree right there too. He came out, that 9-pointer, on the first night I sat in here. I had a good wind. I need an east wind, which blows that way. I can get into that blind from the back side. I sneak in through the spruce trees, and I've got switchgrass that goes all the way around the blind, so I can get up in there without being seen or heard or smelt if the wind is right. And lo and behold, the first night I sat up there, that 9-pointer came out from down here, fed under some apple trees right over there for a little bit, then worked his way up the hill, and right just before dark, he stood and gave me a 25-yard shot, just right between those trees right there. Ran down the hill to where I'm standing, and died right about where I shot where my turkey tipped over in the field right here. So that was pretty remarkable. I don't know if I've ever gotten a first opening weekend buck in archery season ever, so that was pretty cool. It was 80 degrees or like 82 degrees that day, so even though it was super hot, he still came out and had to get in on some apples. So I was really happy with how that turned out. 136 inches I think is what that buck just green scored at, so pretty nice buck. 3.5 years old. I think he weighed 190 pounds or something like that, so I was pretty tickled with that. I might up my game next year. A 3.5-year-old buck around here is a mature buck, but I'm thinking maybe next year I'll hold out for something a little bit better since I had such a good season this year. I should also mention that my nephew Evan, just a few miles from here, shot his best bow buck ever, Dandy buck that he got with the bow, and also my brother Mike. They both got nice bucks with their bows, so it was a pretty good archery season for them too. I was fortunate enough to be able to get to spend some time down in Missouri too. I think I spent 4 or 5 days in late October archery hunting. And I had some pretty good encounters down there too. A nice 10-pointer came into a decoy that I was using, and then I had another I think it was a 7-pointer. Both probably 2-year-old bucks. We had bigger ones, a couple bigger ones down there, so I was being pretty selective. And I went back in mid-November and hunted for another week or so with the bow and arrow, and just didn't have anything happen. Some more good encounters, but just didn't get any opportunities at the ones we really wanted. And then it rolls right into gun season down there. As a non-resident of Missouri, you can buy an over-the-counter archery tag and gun tag, and that gun tag can also be used for muzzleloader. So as soon as the archery season was over mid-November, we rifle hunted for a few days as well. My brother got a real nice 8-pointer on some leased land down there on the first morning, and then our friend Don later in the week shot a pretty nice 10. I personally didn't get anything there with the rifle, and so we came back to Wisconsin to hunt the rifle season here. The Wisconsin gun season here proved to be pretty slow. My dad shot a pretty nice 8-pointer the first night out of his box blind, but the remaining 9 days was pretty tough. It was cold here, and I didn't miss a morning or an evening sit the whole 9-day season. Now some of you are thinking, how does this guy get that much time to hunt? Well, I kind of planned my whole life that way actually. The fall, the rut hunting, and the gun season had always been a priority for me. In fact, the birth of my 2 kids was planned away from the hunting season. I didn't want to have to sacrifice some hunting for a birthday party when there's another 11 months out of the year basically where birthday parties can happen. So That is a fact, and I'm probably not the only crazy whitetail hunter that has planned their kids away from the deer hunting season. So put it in the comments if you're with me. You get it. But anyway, after a slow 9-day gun season, between myself, I tried to get a buck for my son Bennett too in the hunting farm over there, the 75-acre farm. We just couldn't even hardly see a deer, and we had some other good spots too, and it just didn't happen. Jump into muzzleloader season. I think it was a Tuesday afternoon or late afternoon of the muzzleloader season, and I was sitting in this open rifle box that I put up here maybe 12 years ago. I'm standing over a picked bean field, and this 12-point buck came out, and it's a buck that we were familiar with. We had all kinds of pictures of him. My cousin Rick passed him with a bow and arrow. So did my brother back in the woods from here when they were hunting earlier in the season. And I had noticed it. I'd seen it when I was rifle hunting and noticed he had a pretty severe limp. He had something going on with the front leg. And then a couple days later, my cousin saw him too. Same situation, and we kind of all decided that if we could get a shot after that, at that point, that we should probably take it. If he had a leg injury of some kind, would have been a shame to find him eaten up by coyotes in the spring or whatever. So anyway, I was sitting here in the afternoon, and he came out 80 yards in front of me, gave me a perfect standing shot, and I shot him with a muzzleloader. So the first buck I shot with a new muzzleloader I got, it was the Traditions Nitro Fire with the fire stick. Highly recommend. Wow, awesome muzzleloader. And so that buck was kind of by chance. It was some luck, sitting in the right place at the right time. There was one different buck that we were all after. He didn't present himself, but the 12-pointer did. You might have put it together by now that for the most part we're pretty selective hunters. We're letting all the young bucks go, and in a lot of cases the 2.5-year-old bucks get a free pass also. And we're even getting to a point where some 3.5-year-old bucks are going to get a chance to walk. We've got enough property put together where, and enough of us hunting here, that we're willing to let some of those deer walk, even though we know they're not all going to make it through, but we're just hoping on just a few. And not all of our neighbors are QDM hunters. They're gonna, if they want to fill their freezer, that's their choice, and some of them do. But we're willing to take that chance and hope that a few slip through the cracks to get to be 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years old. And once in a while they do. And then between Christmas and New Year's Eve, we headed back down to Missouri for their muzzleloader season. My brother Darren and I bought an 80 earlier in the year, and we had 3 acres of beans left standing in the end of one of the fields there. And we had a nice 10-pointer on camera all season. He disappeared when we were there archery and rifle hunting, and then not long after showed back up. And then we were getting pictures of him kind of regular, including a daylight picture just a couple days before we went down there. And so since my brother had taken that 8-pointer with his rifle down there and used up his buck tag, I kind of had that first choice of where I wanted to sit, and I chose the 360 blind, which I did a video tour of earlier, actually sometime this summer. And lo and behold, a few other deer came out, a couple of other bucks, and then this big 10 showed up, and he's standing there 80 yards away, broadside on the edge of the bean field. And I just completely missed him somehow with that muzzleloader. It shoots, my muzzleloader is sighted in at 150 yards, so it's shooting a little high, a few inches high at 100 yards, maybe 3 inches high at 80 yards. And if I pull just a little, I don't know. Anyway, I missed him. I just kept looking in the woods where he ran with the binoculars, and about 10 minutes later, to make a long story shorter, I had one little opening in the woods at about 130 yards, and I saw him standing there, and I got leveled in on him and shot him and hit him, and he only went about 30 yards and died. And that 10-pointer turned out to be my best buck to date. And to top that off, we were able to take a couple does while we were down there also, and then get in some hinge cutting and some actual land management at the later part of the season there. So all in all, it's been a banner year. Might be the best year I've ever had, at least as far as getting nice bucks goes. We had a Wisconsin youth hunt that was real successful. My buddy Ryan took out his daughter, Miss Amara, and she made a 150-yard shot on a fine 10-pointer. We figured that deer was 3 or 4 years old. And we had another successful youth hunter. My cousin Aaron took his son Sam out to a setup where we had a deer blind between a standing corn food plot and a bedding area, and Sam made a good shot on his first buck. At this time, it's January 9th, and we're pretty much done here in Wisconsin. And I know that some of these other states, you can probably hunt until the end of January. So if you're still out there giving her heck, good luck. And thanks for watching this video, and good luck to you in your hunting this coming fall.